Hello there. Let's take some notes on slope. The steepness of a line is called slope. Wasn't that fun? Slope. Circle the line with the biggest slope. Which one looks the most steep? That would be this one. The letter that we use for slope is lowercase m. Why? Because it comes from the French word monter, which means to climb or to rise. That's a fun fact. When given a graph of a line, we need to know the simple definition of slope, and it is slope is the rise over the run. Slope is the ratio of a line's vertical change, and if you don't know what vertical means, it means up and down. The up and down change to its horizontal change, which is its left to right change. And that is what we mean by rise, up, down, over, run, side to side. How to find the slope of a line when given the graph of a line. Start at the point farthest to the left. Find the rise. If it's going up, that is positive. If it's going down, that is negative. Find the run. If it's going to the right, it is positive. If it's going to the left, it is negative. Okay, so looking at this point, or this line, if we start at the point farthest to the left, because we read a graph from left to right, find the rise. I'm going to change colors here. Let's use green. So I'm going to trace the coordinate grid lines up until I'm even with this line right there. How many spaces did I go up? That was 2 spaces up in a rise. There's 2 in the rise. Then I go from this point, trace that coordinate grid line all the way over to my new point. How many spaces did I move from here to there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So my run is 5. Notice that I went up, and that is positive. Notice I went to the right, and that is positive. If you look at this line and compare it to our foldable, our previous foldable, when we read a graph from left to right, if it starts low and increases to the right, that is a positive slope. So let's look at these other graphs. Find the slope of the following lines. So this one goes down, so that means on top here we're going to have a negative. So how many spaces did we rise? That was -3. Then we look at how many spaces we run. Trace that coordinate grid line. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. To the right is positive there. So -3 over 4 is my slope for there. And if you go back and look at your green foldable again and compare it to slope band, this is a negative slope because that's the direction in which it goes. It starts high on the left and decreases as it goes to the right. Looking at this one, you do your rise, start with the point on the left, you do your rise first. How many spaces did we increase here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It did go up, so that's a positive 5, rise. Then we do our run. How many spaces did I move? That was 1. That was my run. We did move to the right, so it is positive also. You could simplify that to 5. If I wanted to graph more points on this line, it's helpful to know that that 1 is underneath there. So I would say I rise 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then run 1, and I'd find another point on that line. Next one. Start at the point on the left, trace the coordinate grid lines up until you're even with the second point. How many spaces did I go up? 2. And it's positive 2 because I increased, I went up. 2 for the rise. Trace the coordinate lines to your next point. 1, 2, 3, 4. It went to the right, so that is positive. Positive 2 over 4. Now we could simplify that to 1/2. 1 over 2, because this is a common factor of 2 is present there in that ratio, so we could simplify it to 1/2. Now look, what that means is if I rise 1 and I run 2, I've got another point on that line. Let's do it again. If I rise 1, run 2, 1, 2, I've got another point on that line. Again, we'll zoom in a little bit tighter here. My slope was 1, so if 1/2. So if I rise 1 and run 2, 1, 2, I've got another point on that line. And that's how it works. Last one. Start at the point on the left. We do our rise first. And this one went down 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. And because it went down, it's going to be a negative on the rise. And then to the right, I went 1. So that's a positive 1 run. If you wanted to simplify that, you could say this is a negative 4 slope. It's looking on the back. Okay, horizontal and vertical lines. This slope, if you look at the green foldable that we did previously, says that a horizontal line has 0 slope. And it says that a vertical line has an undefined slope. Sometimes we are not given a picture, but instead we are given 2 points on the line. When this is the case, we must implement another definition of slope, another way to find slope. So here is where we use the formula y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. In other words, slope is the change in the y over the change in the x. And you found on the internet when you did your research that we use the triangle, it's a delta, and it represents change. This is a symbol that represents change when we're doing some mathy things. How to find the slope of a line when given 2 points? Subtract one y value from another y value. It helps to draw an arrow. The y values, it might also help you if you label your coordinate pairs xy, xy. All right, so let's look. If we do 7 minus 3, because this is y minus the y, go back to this one because that's where we started. Keep your order consistent. So 1 minus negative 2. Now over here, if you remember, we kiss our frog, turn it into a prince. Subtracting a negative means that we are adding a positive. So this is 7 minus 3, which is 4. This 1 minus negative 2 is really the same thing as 1. Change that to add. Change this to its opposite. That's positive 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. So the slope here is 4 over 3. And if you will remember, because we are dealing with ratios, we want to leave that as is. Okay, we do not want to turn that into a mixed number. We want to leave it as an, if you want to call it an improper fraction, because we're only dealing with comparing two numbers. We're comparing the change in vertical versus the change in horizontal. So using this formula, subtracting the y's over subtracting the x's. Negative 1 minus 2 over 6 minus 4. Kiss your frog. We're going to have negative 3. 6 minus 4 is 2. So that's our answer for that. Our slope is negative 3 over 2. Next, 3 is our y here. Negative 2 is our y here. Minus negative 2. 4 minus 3. We're going to have, add your opposite, kiss your frog. 3 plus 2 is 5. 4 minus 3 is 1. And if you want to simplify that to 5, you may do that. Sometimes it's handy to leave it as a fraction 5 over 1. Here we've got 7, the y, minus this y, 1, over negative 1, the x, minus negative 3. So 7 minus 1, that's 6. Negative 1 minus negative 3. Kiss your frog, add the opposite. Negative 1 plus positive 3, that's a positive 2. That will simplify to 3. Or if you want to, you could also say it's 3 over 1. Last one, 4. 4 minus 5 over the x difference, 3 minus 6. 4 minus 5. Add your opposite. That's a negative 1. 3 minus 6. Add the opposite. That is negative 3. Now, if you will refer back to what we learned when we did integers, piece dude. If you multiply two negatives, you get a positive. If you divide two negatives, you get a positive. So this in simplest form is 1 over 3. That's all we have for today. Thanks for listening.